erect cock out, which obviously disturbs her. She alerts the authorities. Authorities arrive at the scene, and they see a suspicious gentle sir emerging from a wooded area.
Hi, sir. Can I talk to you for a second?
Yeah, how are you?
Good. How about yourself?
Oh, not too shabby.
What's going on?
We're just walking around the lake.
Just walking around the lake?
Yeah.
Okay. Where'd you start at?
Over by Reed's Lake.
Okay. Like Reed's Lake Boulevard, where?
Just south of here.
South of there?
Yep.
Okay. Reason I wanted to talk to you, we had a call on a subject matching your description.
Okay.
Blue jeans, blue sweatshirt.
Yep.
Walking around with his penis out.
Okay.
I love that he looks down to check. Oh, jeepers. Did I forget the zip? Nope. All clear. Well, as you can see, officer, my dick is firmly in my trousers. Checkmate. Must have been somebody else. In fact, I saw a very suspicious gentleman running away like a cartoon villain over there a minute ago, and, you know, now that I stop to think about it, it might have been a penis between his legs dangling around. I think he went that way. He's over that way. You're letting the bad guy get away.
Have any ID on you?
I don't.
You don't?
No.
What's your name?
Dennis.
Dennis, have you ever been in trouble before?
I have not.
Dennis, what's your middle name?
Evan.
Can you try to reach him, please?
Dennis, what's your last name?
Evans.
Copy.
What's your middle name?
Lakeside Boulevard.
Dennis Evans?
Williams.
4174.
Holy shit. It's the Dennis Evans Williams. Wow. I didn't realize we were dealing with a celebrity. This guy is famous for receiving the world's first fart transplant. Now, Dennis has found himself in quite a pickle here. But don't worry, he's got great defense.
No, I think I saw you when I passed by the first time.
Yep.
And you went back that way.
Uh-huh.
And then I saw you walk over here, and you were looking back that way, and then you kind of started to run for a second this way. Why was that?
I have no clue. I saw here, I wouldn't have stopped running, I guess, if I thought it was suspicious.
Yeah. Yep. Was there a reason you ducked back in the woods when I went by the first time?
There's a, I don't know if it's a bridge or like an old stone, I don't even know what it is back there. But yeah, I was just checking it out.
Yeah, dude, you wouldn't believe it. Back in the woods, I saw a bunch of, like, crop circles, and I'm pretty sure I saw some fucking dirty little bastard gnome run back there, so I was just going to check it out. You know, maybe even find, like, a leprechaun's pot of gold. There's a whole bunch of stuff back in the woods, so as I was jogging around, it kind of caught my eye, so I went back there and took a peek. That's the explanation for why it seemed like I was running away from you. Really, I was just on an exploratory adventure, really. There's so much magical wonder back there and whimsy, elves and shit, so I was just taking a peek.
Sit tight with him while I run him real quick.
The name he gave didn't exist in any police database. No driver's license, no vehicle record, no trace at all.
That's impossible. You're telling me Dennis Evans Williams doesn't exist? My lord. He's a deep cover secret agent. You're impeding his investigation. He was back there with his cock out in order to try and bring down some kind of occult organization or something. That's the only explanation. Dennis Evans Williams clearly exists. I'm looking right at him.
You don't have an ID on you right now? Nothing on you?
All right, sit tight. Let me see what else I can find out.
He repeated the same information. Still, nothing came back. Meanwhile, after the two failed attempts to identify the suspect, the victim drove past the scene, and from inside her car, she saw the suspect and immediately identified him to the officer, stating that she was 100% sure. This prompted the officer to approach the suspect a third time, giving him the last chance to give his correct identity.
Oh shit, he got caught on the drive-by here. So the victim drove by and noticed that this was indeed the same character that was just hanging hog out there while she was out on her morning run. And now, with that information of her saying she's 100% sure that's the right guy, the officer is again approaching him to try and get his real identification here, since Dennis Evans Williams is not panning out.
Victim drove by. She gave me a description when I talked to her. She drove by.
We haven't had a
said
promo
100%,
code in a while
no
for
doubt in her
raid.
mind it was you.
Okay.
So here's what
I want to say E-Pyre was the last
you're going to give
one.
me your property.
That was like
you're going to give
2
me your
weeks ago.
address, and then we're going to go from there.
He continues to maintain that he's Dennis Williams. I'm shocked! So this isn't really going anywhere. He's just dropping breadcrumbs of some make-believe mumbo-jumbo here. going nowhere, so I'm going to fast forward a little bit here because he's just stumbling around trying to get himself out of this. It's not working.
Okay.
Go ahead and put your hands back behind your back now. Like I said, you're not getting arrested. Nope. Turn around, face that way.
Face that way.
Okay.
You're not getting arrested. Put your hands behind your back. Interlace your fingers together.
Okay.
Done. Is this why you didn't want us to pat you down?
Well, part of it.
While detaining the dastardly Dennis here, they were patting him down and then going to put him in the vehicle to talk further and figure out, like, who is he? They found a gun while patting him down, and he's like, yeah, that was part of the reason I didn't really want to be giving you guys all my information, thinking that that would be a problem. He didn't tell them that the gun was there, so now they're getting a little more serious about, okay, man, who are you? Just tell us your real name.
All right. What's your real name?
So, here's the deal. This has nothing to do with what you guys stopped me for today. I'm supposed to be at work. Alright. I told my wife I was supposed to be at training today. I didn't want to go to work. I took a vacation. She just thinks I'm at work.
Okay.
That's about
So
it.
you're playing hooky right now.
Yes, exactly. And she thinks I'm at work because I didn't want to stay home with the kids, and so I had the babysitter come out.
Yep.
That's where we're at.
He took a vacation from work so he could walk around out in public with his penis out. Look, my wife just wouldn't understand, but you guys get it. We're bros, right? Like, we understand each other. Sometimes you just need to cool down, take in the fresh air, and just pull your cock out and walk around outside. That's what I was doing. I was playing a little hooky, had a babysitter come over to watch the kids. My wife was
We're
none the
about to get
wiser,
into
and now
Arena. I'm just finishing up my
kind of
grim,
caught between a rock and
forest
a
for the
hard
day real
dick
quick.
here, as you can see, officers. But you know, that's the whole scope of the situation here. It just, I'm supposed to be at work. Clearly, I'm not at work. Bit of a mix-up.
Trying to find out what day the Gerald buff is supposed to drop.
Troy?
Suppose maybe it's in the Supreme Club Discord.
ALLEN.
Let's get on the Discord with Supreme Club real quick.
10/31/86.
And you obviously don't want your wife to know what's going on.
Kinda why we're here.
As officers detained him pending identification, they conducted a pat-down. That's when everything changed. Inside his waistband was a loaded Springfield Armory Hellcat, round-chambered. In his pocket, a
Ready for that,
Microtech switchblade.
Valerie
Neither
Decker
had
fake
been
to
disclosed.
start.
But what the officers
got
were
a
just about to discover
pretty good
would
amount
shift the
of,
case even further.
The way they're using the music here sounds like a horror movie
Summoning
trailer
shards and
right
stuff
now.
to
They got
pull
like
on my main
the
account,
creepy
like,
water phone
probably
sound
like
effect.
40,
What they
50
discovered
plus,
was going to change
5 or 6
everything.
Immortals.
Tucked into his waistband, in addition to the other
And by the end
instruments,
of that, we'll
was
probably have a couple of Eternals.
his
So,
penis. Again,
I've only been saving him up for
confirming
like a
beyond a
week and a half,
shadow
but
of
we
a
have
doubt that
accumulated
this
quite
was
a
the
bit in that
same
short
cock
amount of time.
that was just indecently exposed outside moments prior to the officers arriving at the scene.
Is there any way I could write you something?
I want the actual
I can
Discord
get
app
a
itself,
pen and a piece of
not
paper.
the web page. Anybody know what the PBT means?
Touch your feet.
What he wrote on that paper was KCSD. His true identity is Troy Allen White, a 10-year Kent County Sheriff's Deputy.
So I guess he wanted to keep this one a bit off the record, so he wrote it down, passing some notes here, letting them know that he is actually an off-duty officer. He is a Kent County Sheriff's Deputy, Troy Allen White.
Yeah, you work for
What are
the
we
sheriff's
supposed to do
department? Okay, what do you do there?
4119,
Oh yeah, I work for the Sheriff's Department. What do I do there? I'm just kind of the penis guy. That's just kind of like what I do there. It's just, you know, they say, hey Troy, pull out that wiener, right? That's just kind of what I do here. So, you know, I was supposed to be at work today, so I just got a little confused, you know, walking around outside. Big misunderstanding.
County, lodge on false info, indecent exposure, $100 bond for each.
Okay.
So you'll be able to post bond tonight. I'm going to tell you you're going to get suspended when we get down to the sheriff's department here.
Troy gave consent to search his truck.
So I believe the strategy here from Troy was to inform the officers that he is also in law enforcement, hoping that they would try and like look out for him to help him out, maybe squeeze himself out of this whole thing here. That wasn't in the cards. That didn't happen. So next they got consent from Troy to search his truck. There they found under the booster seat for one of his children a rifle and a flesh-colored dildo. So this man was driving around the fucking freak-mobile here. So they started wondering, well, what is all of this about? What's up with this dildo and all this?
About intent, behavior, and whether this incident was isolated. During a follow-up call, officers asked the victim a necessary question, whether she could have mistaken what she saw.
What you saw, you described it as his penis.
Right.
Do you know what color it looked like?
So I was thinking about this a lot last night because one of the officers asked me, "Are you sure it was his penis?" And I was like, yeah.
Okay.
And then I started to think, well, I suppose it could have been a strap-on dildo that he was wearing through his pants.
This goes on for quite a little while, but I'll summarize. She does like tinker around with the notion that maybe it's possible he was wearing a dildo out of his fly, but she's pretty certain it was actually his penis. She goes on to describe the color as being like very white and contrasting like with everything else. So she is very confident that it was his penis, but then even says if it was a dildo, this is still completely unacceptable regardless, which the officer on the phone agrees with. Ultimately, they did charge him with indecent exposure among like falsifying information. He also resigned in the midst of all of this, and I can't find a follow-up for what happened with the charges, so hopefully the indecent exposure and all that stuck, because this guy's a fucking weirdo freak. Anyway, just wanted to put this story on your radar here. This was a wild one. That's really about it. So yeah. It's rare that I can't yap up a wacky intro, but learning about this menace has left me stunned. I just saw this video from EWU Body Cams about this guy that would hide cameras in like every bathroom on the planet, it seems like. I wouldn't be surprised if he's got hidden cameras in my own porcelain throne territory there. Like he's infiltrated my domain and is filming me.
I'm calling because we just received an anonymous tip that someone has a camera in our employee bathroom and is uploading videos online.
They still haven't raised my charges. What's our charges? You're not supposed to be judgmental to anybody's crimes, by the way.
What the hell is even that? You're not supposed to be judgmental of crimes? I don't remember hearing that in the Miranda rights. I can't even really...
Arena! Hey, Chris in the house with another Raid Shadow Legends video bringing the news. Yeah, we're going to have two champions rebalance. The first one, it is this dude over here. The Panda Bamboos. He is at the moment not being used particularly for anything but in a comp for Titus. Okay, he is the hardest champion to do a Titus comp because the conditional that we have for his skill is very annoying to fulfill. So between the Titus teams that we're able to do, he works, but has the worst conditional and the more challenging team to put together to make the key possible. He's going to suffer a buff, so he has a more updated kit. This is what his kit is going to look like. To be fair, I read that.
Gotta plug in my headphones, give me a second. See the guy you gotta keep the burns on? I don't see any burns there. even know if we have any burners on here. We don't. I don't know if we're going to be able to do this, boss, this rotation, because we didn't put any burners on the team. I don't know how we managed to forget that on the free-to-play. I mean, we might if we just have Sun Wukong as our main damage dealer, and then nobody else for damage, because he can revive himself, and just put a bunch of block debuffs and healers. We might be able to get away with it, but I don't know. Damn. I don't know, maybe with all the revivers on the team we might be able to pull it off. Where'd my sprite go? Ah. Can you take his turn meter down? No. But I will say, he doesn't deal a whole lot of damage. Most of the damage is coming from the reflect damage. That provoke hurts me though. Yeah, I think we're okay. We've already done hard mode on here, so we're just swapping out the normal mode for the extra rewards. but they're not near as good as the hard mode. One good thing about Xenomorph on this is that most of his damage, or at least over half of it's coming from the poisons, so that you're able to get more damage out of him without actually the passive reflecting the damage back. Wow. The blessing triggers to reflect damage as well, surprisingly, though. I didn't expect that. Well, there's a champion training going on, so we'll take the bruise. got two really good champions on the fresh free-to-play account. We got Demitha and Achak yesterday or the day before. And I'm pretty excited to get Demitha leveled up, and Achak could be really helpful in spotter. We're in Silver 3. How come we're not getting 3 silver things per win? We're also making some pretty good progress towards Anaxia now. Let's see if there's anything in the news about the release date. No? Damn. and pull our shards while we're doing this. What's in the summoning pool? Basin. You know, I'm not really crazy about the Assassin's Creed IP champions. I got Cassandra just because it's the first champion of the Argonite faction, but none of them really seem like they're worth going for. So the void rares are worth 50 and the standard rares are worth 10. Not complaining, but I feel like that's a little bit of a too large of a differential. Outside of a handful, none of the void rares are really that much better than the standards. Not really getting anything of use. Not a single epic out of the voids. Well, let's pull our 3 primals. Primals are the most overrated shards in the game. They shouldn't even have a frickin' rares in them. Flaja's a pretty good champion. She hits pretty hard. Spotter's another pretty hard hitter. You've got to quit screaming. I can't even hear my own headphones. Oh, we got more than 40. We got about 80 of them all combined. Yeah, we're gonna have a good summoning shard pull tomorrow. Make me a salad too.
Kelly? What was that? 60? So 45. Oh,
shit.
Coach Greg, in today's video, Cali Muscle, he has a second heart attack. It already wasn't looking good. The first heart attack, the Widowmaker, this can dramatically shorten your life, but he made it through. But now that he has a second heart attack, it's going to dramatically reduce his life expectancy. And on top of that, he's going to need to make significant changes. I'm going to go over his video. I'm going to explain what he should be doing if he wants to live longer than last time, what he should be taking, should he be using HRT. Going to answer all the questions, and so let's watch and hopefully you learn.
January 17th, I had another heart attack. Not at home, not asleep, at the gym.
60 for 45. Oh.
And so here's the thing. When people go to the gym, they're thinking of health, but people do in fact know that if you are at risk of a heart attack, that there's certain things that you should be doing in the gym and certain things that you shouldn't be doing into the gym. And so here's a great place to start. Cali muscle has to stop training to failure. You should be at an RPE of perhaps 6, maybe 7, keeping several reps in the tank. And it's not about building muscle. What you want is a moderate amount of muscle, but certainly not a lot. The larger the muscles, the larger the body, and the more the heart is going to have to work. And so for Cali muscle, he should be just going through the motions, lifting the weights, not really pushing himself, and just thinking about longevity, not about aesthetics. And as far as cardio concerned, that is his friend. Zone 2 cardio, he should be trying to get in perhaps 4 to 6 hours of Zone 2 cardio each and every week, 150 being the absolute minimum. But when you're trying to survive longer than last time, are you going to do the minimum or are you going to do what's ideal? Zone 2, remember, you can talk, you can form sentences. It's not overly strenuous, and that is going to improve his heart. And so what Kali should be doing is, for example, a full body workout, a circuit going from one machine to the next, not pushing himself to failure, certainly not doing the Valsalva maneuver, not going for 1 rep maxes, and doing a lot of cardio. For example, going on the stepper, the rowing machine, bicycle riding, and that should be his workout. And if he could do that, that would definitely extend his life.
If you think more drugs, more steroids, more intensity mean a better quality of life, then you're mistaken, because I thought the same thing.
Absolutely. When you're an athlete, such as Cali Muscle, you want to go hard. You want to push harder than last time. What's hard for him is not going to the gym, not working out hard, not pushing his limits, but if he wants to live as long as humanly possible, longer than last time, to be around for his kids, his family, and so on, he has to put it on the back burner, and he just cannot do this. And as far as testosterone goes, people are wondering, well, what about HRT? It's still okay to use HRT, but in the lowest dose that makes you happy. And I'm not talking about sport TRT or testosterone optimization therapy. I'm talking about the bare minimum, perhaps 80 or 100 milligrams of testosterone a week. Many people oftentimes are going into the 150 to 200, dare I say even 250 milligrams. That is not TRT. I mean, you might feel like it's TRT, you might want it to be a TRT, but it is in fact too much. And remember, if you're looking to get TRT and clomiphene, your blood work, you're trying to avoid getting in a situation like this. Algo-RX, you get your blood work done. The doctors go over it, and they will tell you exactly what you need. Perhaps you need telmisartan, do you need Cialis, do you need glutathione? What exactly are you looking for? Perhaps you need peptides to help reduce your cravings, to reduce some weight. Cali Muscle is not obese, and that certainly is going to help him. Many people who have cardiac events such as this, they're 300 pounds. That's going to put an even added strain on his heart, and so you can see, Cali is very lean, and that is in fact in his favor.
I went fruitarian for some years, which I kind of find out now causes fatty liver that causes your arteries to get clogged and blocked.
Eating a lot of fruit, it's not going to make you unhealthy. The same applies to vegetables, fruits. You're not getting heart attacks from eating too much watermelons. Remember, he had a heart attack only a couple of years ago, the Widowmaker, one of the worst ones you can get, and yet he survived. From that moment on, his life changed. He should have been on very low doses of TRT, going easy in the gym, and doing a lot of Zone 2 cardio, not pushing himself, not trying to set PRs, certainly not going back on higher doses of TRT. It's hard when you've had such an amazing physique for so long to roll back on those doses, but it is in fact a must. And so, no, don't think that carbs are the enemy. This is ridiculous. I don't care if it's from rice, potatoes, carrots, zucchinis, blueberries, raspberries.
No, I got
You can
drinks
eat
here.
the fruits, the vegetables, the carbs, especially if you're going out and doing your cardio. Cardio is a savior. It's more important than lifting weights. Think of it. Which do you think would have been better for Cali Muscle? Had he been bodybuilding, flexing the biceps, doing the bench press his entire life, or doing zone 2 cardio? Which muscle in the body do you think is the most important? Do you think it's this bicep, perhaps it's the pec? No, it's got to be the delts. I mean, think of it. Clavicular's putting in shoulder pads to be more impressive. The heart, you need to have a strong and healthy heart. And remember, when you do zone 2 cardio, you're still using your muscles. It's not like they're not being used. You don't think that when I ride a bike for an hour, 2 hours, whatever, that my quads are getting a workout? Now, it might not be as hard as doing 10 rep max on the squats, but it's harder than most people are going. Most people aren't doing any cardio at all. And so, trust me, the world would change as we know it if people on average did 4 to 6 hours of cardio a week. Imagine 45 minutes a day, 7 days a week, whatever, however you want to do it. Imagine if everyone did that. The world would save billions, perhaps trillions of dollars on Medicare. That is the magic pill that doctors cannot prescribe. They can't write a script. Pharmaceutical companies can't make billions and trillions of dollars saying 150 minutes of cardio a week, or perhaps 300, it would be even better. Do 1 or take 2, do 2 hours of cardio this week and call me in the morning. It doesn't work like that. And so they make prescriptions, medications, and they make billions and trillions of dollars on people like Cali Muscle getting sick.
My genetics, yes. The more carbs I eat, the more clogged up I would get.
No, it's not true. I don't care what kind of genetics you have. He didn't get this from eating too many carbs. He's going to cope and he's going to make it look like, no, it was my diet, when we all know it was the steroids. He's not wrong about genetics. Genetics are more prone to getting these problems than others. Certain people have better genetics for using steroids. Certain people don't. Certain people, no matter what they do, they're going to get heart attacks, problems at a very young age. But it doesn't mean you don't try. And the worse your genetics are, the more you should be encouraged to do zone 2 cardio.
Those that don't know me, I did 11 years in prison. In that 11 years, I was eating top ramen every single day, honey buns. I had to have my 2 Snickers.
All of that perhaps is true. But what's more important than how many Skittles you're having, ramen noodles, donuts, candies, and so on, is your weight. For example, you got 2 people, person A, person B. Let's call them identical twins. Person A eats like absolute dog shit. All candies, cakes, cookies, ice cream, horrible diet. Person B, perfect diet. I don't care who they're following. Insert your favorite guru, and they're following that diet. Whether it's carnivore, fruitor, whatever, skeletor. What? Whatever diet you think is best, that's the diet that they're following. Perfect. But here's the caveat. The junk food eater, they're doing an hour or 2 cardio a day, and they're eating exactly at maintenance. They probably have a 6-pack. They're at 15% body fat. Person B, all healthy, the perfect foods. They don't do any cardio whatsoever. Who do you think lives longer? Junk food eater. If you think that just eating a healthy diet is all that you need, it is not. The more important factor is how much cardio you're doing, and are you at a healthy weight?
Well, I know I had some issues because I always seen my feet with water and edema. When I take off my socks, it had an indentation. So I had already acquired some type of plaque in my heart.
Genetic. It's not from eating carbs. It's not from having fruit. It's not from ramen noodles. Genetics. Think of it. He was 100% natural. He had an amazing physique for athleticism, for lifting weights, for putting on muscle, but yet he had edema in his feet. Edema, in case you don't know, it's when water, it pools in your lower legs. It's explaining how your body isn't pumping blood effectively. The heart, it pumps blood out, and it goes down to your ankles, and it's supposed to make its way back up. If the fluid is pooling in your ankles, it's not returning back to the heart, and this is bad. And so bodybuilders out there, especially, I mean, if you're not a bodybuilder, you got to go to the doctor. If you're a bodybuilder, you're on steroids, and you see that your ankles keep getting swollen, you got to stop the steroids. It's not normal to get all this edema. And so when you see a guy like Larry Wheels gaining 53 pounds after a bodybuilding competition, what do you think is going to happen in the long run? Is it a joke? Do we laugh about it? We make fun? Oh, you gained 50 pounds. Oh, you ate too many cookies. Or do you think, do you know how bad that is for your body? Do you know that you're in early stages of perhaps getting a heart attack? Imagine what happens if you actually did get that heart attack. And even if you don't, the damage is done. It's going to keep getting worse year after year. And eventually, you're going to look back and think, why did I do it? Why did I not listen to Coach Greg?
I had my kids through IVF because I had to bring back up my sperm. I had to get off steroids for 2 years to bring back up my sperm.
Let me just remind you that I'd made a natty or not on him in the past, and I said that he was not natural. He got mad at me and said a bunch of things, and turned out he was on steroids. Of course he was. And so if you're on steroids and you just lie about it and you don't even tell your doctor, how are they supposed to know if you're healthy? Now, obviously using steroids is bad, but you need to get your blood work. You need to get checked out. You need to check your blood pressure. High blood pressure, it's horrendous. I went to my doctor just the other day. He tested my blood pressure. It was 100/60. He says, that's great. I'm thinking, man, that seems pretty low, but it's great because what if it was 140/90? Oh, it's not that bad. It's okay, right? Wrong. That's horrible. And so if you're just a little bit high, that's like saying, oh, you just took a little bit of poison. Don't worry. Be chill. It's not a full lethal dose of poison. It's just a little bit. Would you like that? Of course not. And so you need to do something about it. Remember, you can get things from Algorex like Talmosartan. And if you are in fact overweight, you could lose weight. And if you aren't doing cardio, you would add it. And if you're on performance-enhancing drugs, you would stop.
Stop it. Get some help.
You don't need to do the steroids. You're choosing to. But if the steroids are causing bad things to your body, of which they are, you are allowed to stop. It's amazing. I know. You're 4 weeks out and you're about to get a heart attack and you're allowed to say, you know what? The show isn't worth it. In the moment, it feels like it's worth it, because trust me, I've done it 59 times. It feels worth it. Like you're dieting, you're doing the things, you're taking the steroids, of which I didn't do the whole time. The first 42 I did natural, but I did steroids later, and you're thinking, well, it's worth it, and everyone else is doing it, and this is a sport that I love. And so if you fall in love with bodybuilding, the problem is bodybuilding involves steroids. It's kind of like if you fall in love with raving. Raving involves a lot of doing recreational things, sniffing creatine and so on. There's certain things that involve other things that are kind of not good for us. Like going to the bars usually involves drinking alcohol. And so not necessarily good. And so when you love bodybuilding, strongman, powerlifting, these sports, it usually involves a lot of steroids. And unfortunately, that's just the case. If you fall in love with badminton, tennis, pickleball, basketball, not a lot of steroids there. Not saying you can't use them, but not a lot. And so certain sports are more conducive to doing less crazy things than others. And so if you happen to fall in love with bodybuilding, you're probably watching the Trend Twins, you're probably watching Sam Sulik, and you're probably watching Chris Bumstead, all on steroids. You end up thinking, well, steroids is just normal, and then you do it, and then you keep doing it, and then you have to retire, you get all messed up, you can't do the things, and then you die. There is, of course, another way, and it's called natural bodybuilding. You know, where you use Turk Builder and use the Turk Platinum, and where people tell you, oh, it doesn't actually work because they haven't used it, and they don't believe that it's way better than creatine, even though it is. So I recommend you try that. And then you can be one of the Coach Greg supplement users, and you can tell the rest of the world that they got it wrong. And remember, there's a money-back guarantee and a $50 gift card, and so even if it didn't work, does it really matter? You're going to get all your money back, and so you get to try, and then you get to tell other people, oh, it didn't actually work for me. Rare, but it happens. And so why not give it a try? Code Greg, 15% off.
But I was still eating that bodybuilder diet, a lot of rice. You know, my main thing was rice. That's what I would eat, oatmeal and rice. And for me, evidently, it don't metabolize right in my system.
You know, if it hadn't have been for the bodybuilder diet, probably wouldn't have had that widowmaker heart attack. I'd probably be going to lift to be probably 90, roughly 90. How much cope is this? But I mean, the guy had 2 heart attacks. He's probably trying to put it all into perspective. And it's hard to say, you know what? I got this because I'm an idiot and abuse steroids. It's hard to say that. It's hard to admit that a choice that you made did something bad. And so you try to say, no, it's not this. It was just genetics. It would have happened anyway. It's hard to say, I made this decision, I abused steroids, and now I'm going to die significantly younger, of which he most certainly is. I'm sorry, but this dramatically reduces your life expectancy. He's not an old man, and when you get this a couple times, you can perhaps live 15 to 25 years longer if you do everything right, but he's not going to live to be into his 80s.
So with my body, that's going to convert into blockages in my artery, right? In my heart. And so, boom, I'd stop my medication.
Thinking time, folks. You know, I feel like I'm teaching the kids that I used to teach. I remember I was a school teacher for 11 years. Let's talk about this briefly. What do you think is more likely to cause him problems with his heart? Fruit, going off his medication. Choice is yours. Ding, ding, ding. Yeah, it's the friggin' going off the medication. That's the problem. It's not having too much fruit. It's not too much watermelon. Bro, no, it's not that.
Firstly, I had a widowmaker and I had a stent in. I wasn't supposed to stop my med. Come to find out,
You know, why would doctors prescribe you medications that you should take? I mean, they just do it for fun. So when a doctor prescribes you medications, they're just thinking, I wonder if this fool will actually take them. That's not how it works. Doctors prescribe you medications because they think they do more good for you than harm. And so if the doctor says you need to take a talmosartan, if the doctor says you need to take a beta blocker, if the doctor tells you to take anything, it's because he thinks that by taking that specific medication that your life will get better than if you do not take it. That is why my endocrinologist, which is an expert in hormones, prescribed me HRT.
after my workout, I would have 4 eggs. Then I would go about the day, have a cup of tea, and at night, I would have like some fish and a salad or quinoa.
The diet seems great. Being scared of rice, no real need to be scared of the rice. You know, he had the quinoa, I was scared of the rice. You can have the rice. You know what I would be scared of, though? Taking 200 milligrams of test a week. I would definitely be scared of that. Would I be scared of 150? I would be scared of 150. 100, I probably wouldn't be scared of 100, so long as the doctor prescribes it and says, you know, this looks good, your HDL is okay, your LDL is okay, everything seems in order. I would be scared of the HRT if it was in higher doses. I would be scared of not taking the medications that my doctor prescribes to me. Isn't it crazy how irrational people are on the things that they consider to be important? Like the low-hanging fruit, the most important thing that you can do. And I looked up low-hanging fruit. Apparently you're not allowed to say it anymore because it's racist or something. I don't feel like I'm racist by saying low-hanging fruit. And so the low-hanging fruit, probably to take your medications. Up on the hierarchy of important things to do when you have a heart attack, avoiding rice, it's so not low-hanging. I can't even reach it. Now, I understand I'm a 5'6" manlet. I can't reach very high, but even with a step ladder, I can't get up to the part where it says that you shouldn't have rice. My father almost died of a heart attack a couple years ago, and there was a paramedic on the scene at the exact moment where he had the heart attack and saved his life. And so I understand a lot about heart attacks, and my dad is not scared of rice. I do know that he does a lot of cardio. He does a lot of fast walking. Even on the cruise ship, we're on vacation together for about 11 days. He was walking every single day. He's trying to be fit. That's what you need to do. Rice is one of the best things you could eat. It's great. Rice, potatoes. What you wouldn't want to have is a bunch of sugar-laden, ultra-processed foods like Haagen-Dazs and licorice and jelly beans, but rice. Rice is not killing you.
Fast forward to January 17th. I had already worked out in the morning, which I could show you guys some clips.
And so just the fact that he had a heart attack, holding your breath and flexing for all you're worth, that is not good. You're not supposed to do the Valsalva maneuver. You're not supposed to force maximally like this, as it does create a problem.
Before I went to the gym, I banged my finger. I don't know if y'all can see it right there. So I smashed my finger in the door. So that was really a sign that something was off. I've never did that in my life.
No. Because, like, let's say he had skipped the gym that day. Oh, man, I banged my finger. I never bang my finger. How often does any of us bang our finger? If I bang my finger, stub my toe, do you think I'm not bike racing tonight? Like, really? I'm not going to the gym. I bang my finger. Imagine every day how many things that happen. Oh, Buddy cursed me out. I'm not going to the gym today. This is ridiculous. And think of it like this. If this hadn't happened today, if he had skipped gym day that day, you don't think it would happen the next day or the day after that, the day after that? It would have eventually happened because he's not doing everything right.
And as you see, I did 65 straight push-ups, got out, and that heart must have went crazy.
Yeah. 65 is too much. Had he done 30, probably would have been fine. Cardio, zone 2. But when you really, really push yourself and you have a heart such as this, it's not good for it. It's not made to handle that load.
EMT, he shocked me, do CPR till the ambulance come. And I'm unconscious, guys. And so I come to find out I was in a coma, induced coma 3 days.
And so the reason he would have been in an induced coma for multiple days is they would have cooled his body temperature by perhaps 3 degrees or so. This is to increase the likelihood that he does not get brain damage. This can actually happen. You're passing out, you're having a heart attack, you're collapse on the floor. This can cause certain parts to basically to shut down.
They would have been fatherless. My wife would have been a widow. You know, it's just all because of my past mistakes. You know, with eating wrong, then bodybuilding, doing steroids.
There it is. I mean, he's admitting it all right now. Health is wealth. Health is everything. I got a family. All this nonsense, the eating, the bodybuilding, the abusing steroids, all this nonsense, it added to this. And the problem is you're all mostly younger people watching this, and you don't think it's going to happen to you. You're thinking, yeah, but that's just him. Or, hey, if I make it to 40, who cares? This is just ridiculous thinking. You need to realize that this can happen to you right now. And what's going to happen is when you're older, you're going to think, oh my God, there's so many things I didn't realize that when I was young that I needed to get more age, wisdom, maturity in order to realize it. And so if you're smart right now, what you'll do is you'll talk to older people and you'll gather their wisdom and apply it to yourself earlier in your life. Because think of it, they've gone through life, they've experienced the things that you're going to experience, and so they understand. And so when they tell you something, it's because they already know. This is like talking to Coach Greg. I've already seen the final exam and I know all the answers, and I'm trying to help you. Now, you might think it's cheating by getting enhanced wisdom from the future right now, but there's no laws against this here in life. You're allowed to listen to me and other people who have experienced these things, and when we say don't abuse steroids, don't abuse recreational drugs, do your cardio, don't be a fat piece of shit, lazy, obese, and not doing your cardio.
I can understand you want to be fit and in shape. You could do that naturally. I was super jacked. At 34, never touched nothing in my life. Didn't even drink pre-workout.
Exactly. You can be fit and in shape, compete, all these things naturally. I mean, Sam Sulek, if he wasn't on steroids, he wouldn't be jacked like he is, but he could still be competing in bodybuilding, but in natural bodybuilding. There's drug-tested bodybuilding and there's regular bodybuilding. You can compete in the IFBB and you can go against Sam Sulek and C-Bomb and the rest. You can compete in a drug-tested version. Did you all not like the way Will Tennyson looked when he competed natural? Perhaps Jesse James West or Hussein Farhat, they all competed in natural bodybuilding competitions, and so you don't need to abuse performance-enhancing drugs to be a bodybuilder. You're not going to be as big, you're not going to be as huge, you might not be as shredded, but it's still good. And who's going to laugh last? When you're 50 and dead because you abuse steroids? Or when you're 80 and still thriving?
There's a lot of bodybuilders that's going through these situations, but they don't want to seem weak. They don't want to let you know that they had an episode.
And so another great point he's making, who else is explaining this stuff? You don't see this stuff. The only time you see about the problems is when they die. People aren't talking about, you know what? I had a heart attack, I had this happen, I had that happen, I went to the doctor and oh my God, my blood work and my blood pressure, and I'm on these amounts of medications, it's insane. They're not mentioning that because they don't want you to know. And so Callie's a real world example of what can happen, and it happens way more often than you think. People, they just are blinded by these things. You're not aware of it. If people are, for example, impotent, they can't get a hard-on from taking steroids, and now they're off the steroids, they can't get you think they're making videos, hey, I want to announce to the world that I can't get hard. They don't say that. They announce to the world, look at the guns, look at me, I'm shredded, look how amazing I look. Look at my before and after transformation. They don't show the blood work and say all the problems. How many times do you see people showing their blood work when they do a bodybuilding competition? They show it after, When it's as good as it's been, they show you their best blood work. How many people show you their worst blood work?
A big thing, like I say, for me and knowing that something was wrong with my heart was edema, water retention. So you got to be careful, man. That's the first sign, man.
I would say that an earlier sign than the edema is high blood pressure. It's high. Like, why is it high? What do you think that's going to do? Do you think that's good for your body? If you have high blood pressure, every day, every beat, it's high. It's making your heart work that much harder. And so it's weakening the body. You cannot let it keep going. And so that is an even earlier sign. If you're already getting the edema, well, technically, part of it, it's already too late. You need to do something immediately.
How many people a year die of heart attacks? 700,000 in America? What you think? Maybe 100 of those people took steroids.
Callie never admits he was good at math. 100 people out of 700,000. If only 100 people out of 700,000 got a heart attack that did steroids, then I would literally be making a video saying, do you know what? You should all take steroids if your goal is to prevent heart attacks, because to have only 100 out of a sample size of 700,000, it's probably closer to 5,000. It's 50 times more likely than he's explaining. Don't think that, oh, well, only 100 out of 700,000. That would be 1 out of 7,000. You only think that one person out of 7,000 people that die of a heart attack, only one, minuscule, only one had a heart attack. This is ridiculous.
Don't just get caught up in this fitness bodybuilder world. Rice, chicken, steak, eggs. You know what I mean? Like, you got to find out what works for you and your body.
Rice, chicken, steak, and eggs is not going to be the cause of a heart attack. Steroids? Maybe. Not getting proper sleep, using and abusing recreational drugs, increased stresses, alcohol, ignoring going to the doctor, not getting your blood work taken ever, and just living your life FOMO and saying, you only live once. You only live once. You don't get to come back and do over. And so please do it right the first time.
I'm beyond ecstatic to be here with you guys still, my family, my kids.
Subscribe, click the bell button, comment the Boosie album, like the video if you liked it, do something about it. If you liked the video, change your life. Stop doing the bad things, do more of the good things, and live a longer time than last time. Watch any of those two bloops, and of course, if you're looking for HTLT supplements, you can get them on the website, and if you're looking for AlgaRx, code Greg for both of these things for discounts. HTLT looking for sponsored athletes. If you have a big following, if you have anything, apply, click the link. If you want to carry HTLT supplements in your stores, gyms, link, click, apply. And until next time, I am out.
There is something amiss about the DEXA scam. There is something amiss about the DEXA scam. There is something amiss about the DEXA scam.
There's something amiss about the DEXA scam.
Thank you.
Coach Greg, in today's video, Mike Israetel finally admits that DEXA scams are a scam. Maturing, growing up, is realizing that Coach Greg was right all along.
I'm gonna explain just how bad the DEXA scam is.
What is Jeff Nippert gonna say? He just literally bought a DEXA scam. And so Mike's saying the DEXA scams are not accurate, that they can be off by 6, 10, perhaps even 15%. And so perhaps the Twin Towers will be crumbling after all.
About to get a second DEXA. Let's get naked.
Hi, why is he twerking on the DEXA scam? Nobody wanted to see that. Nobody. Not one human being on this earth.
Scott, what was your guess first?
I'll go 9-3.
Okay, I go 9-1.
I go 8 because I betted a whole Diet Coke on this.
So they made a wager, a prediction of what would Mr. Mike's body fat be going into this DEXA scam, and they said 9.1 to 9.3%. The results...
It's saying 14. I'm serious.
Jeff Nippert said that the DEXA scam results are very humbling. And so imagine if somebody approached Dr. Mike or wrote him in on a question or wrote it in a comment section and said, Mr. Mike, I don't think the DEXA scams are accurate. I went in for a DEXA scam and it said I'm 14%. What do you think Mr. Mike would have said? He would have said, DEXA scams are very humbling. I'm sorry, but, you know, it's the golden standard. It's not off by more than 1 or 2%. they would then write in the next reply, how you have a response and it goes in order. They would say, well, I wrote Coach Greg and he said that DEXA scams are not accurate, that it's a DEXA scam. He would say, I don't listen to that sociopath loser that I had the greatest displeasure of ever meeting. He would have said, I'm wrong and that he is right, but now he magically, out of his ass, has changed his mind. And why? Because it said he was not lean. And so when it doesn't play into his own narrative, when it doesn't fit the bill, it's wrong.
235 down to 213, and I lost 1.5% body fat.
He dieted his ass off, literally, and lost 20 pounds of muscle. That's what the machine said. Now, previous to this video, I made a video on Brian Shaw. He went in, did a DEXA scam, and then lost some weight, went on a diet, and it said he'd lost 20 pounds of muscle. And I wrote a comment and said, it's a DEXA scam. Don't take it personally. It's just a guess. I said, you know, my laser eyes, they're the golden standard, and people laughed.
Oh, you're a joker. You're a jester. You just make funny videos. You can't be taken seriously.
Am I not better at guessing body fat than a DEXA scam? When you go for a DEXA scam, it doesn't actually scan you per se. It sends x-ray type shit, and based on an algorithm, you know, a formula, you know, a guess, it predicts what your amount of muscle and fat and bone that you actually have. And so it doesn't actually know. It's not an MRI scan, which is the golden standard, the actual standard, the one that's actually bang on accurate, the only one that can outguess Coach Greg, the MRI. Problem is MRI is too expensive and we can't do it regular. But if you had MRI, like Brian Johnson, no, not the Liver King, the other one, the guy that lives forever by draining his blood from his son and drinking it, whatever he does, that guy, he has the actual MRI. And so if Jeff Nipaw wanted to actually do a science-based video on actual body fats, he would need to use an MRI, but he chose to use a DEXA scam, which is, of course, as you know, it's a guess. Similar to the in-body scam, only the in-body scam, it's even worse. As evidenced by, I had 19.8%. Do I look like I'm 19.8%? You can say, oh, it humbles you. I am not 19.8%. Oh. And so, are the legs leaner than last time? Now remember, this is Coach Greg with bronchitis. Not the bronchitis. But do I have any striations? And so, you can debate me, but is it possible that I'm as lean as Mr. Mike?
If you get a DEXA, is that the end? No. Get 10 DEXAs in a row. Just get the best one that you can out of a random sample of all those.
I mean, he's not even lying. Go get 10 DEXAs and pick the best one, and then post about that. And don't mention the other 9. It sounds like when people literally promote their supplement products. They'll get 10 studies, and then they'll eliminate the 9 bad ones and pick the one that works and talk about that. And y'all think, oh, supplements, they're all proven to work. That is what they actually do. Should we mention the fact that they wanted me to spend $200,000, give it to Dr. Jose Antonio in secret, not tell anyone about it, to fund the testosterone study? And then because I didn't do it, oh, let's get everyone 1 pill per month. Let's not have them lift weights. No. Why would we do that? Why would we want to see if a pill of testosterone helps them to put on muscle? Why would we ask them to lift weights? And we'll use an in-body scan to determine if they put on muscle. Oh, that wouldn't over Coach Greg. No. But yet he did it, and it happened in its real life. You're thinking there's no way this could happen. It happened, and it's going to happen again. Eventually, y'all going to try the Turk yourself, and you're going to realize that it's way better than I described. And so if you're interested, code Greg 15% off. You know you want it. The tens of thousands of people that keep rebuying it, they know that it works. Way better than creatine. And so get your wallets handy. You're going to make Coach Greg richer than ever before.
Let's make sense of what the hell could be going on here with our DEXA mystery.
It's a DEXA scam. It's scamming you. That's it. That's it. All of a sudden it changed the game.
And so we went and got another DEXA. This time the DEXA was on a different brand of machine.
Should have went to Jeff Nipaw's DEXA scam and done it there. Could have paid off Jeff. I'm sure they're buddies, bum buddies or whatever. And then, Jeff, tell them I'm 6%. 6.7%. 6.7. Roughly there. 6.6. 6.66. Don't tell the devil.
Unfortunately, unfortunately, the place was pretty booked up when we tried. So the earliest we could get in there was about 3 weeks later.
Have you ever seen a DEXA scam where it takes 3 weeks to get in? I can always get in like that.
Yeah.
Like, there's no...
I literally booked 2 days before where we went.
And we just showed up. They held the door open. It was closed. And I went in after hours.
No, the girl was literally like, I'll meet you guys when you land.
Whenever you want.
7:45 p.m. I'll be there with the key. Yeah, it was so easy. So easy.
It was easy.
So this DEXA had me at 222 pounds of total weight and exactly 6.00% body fat.
I'm a little bit suspicious on this test. A, he was 211 pounds, dieted for 3 more weeks, took 50 milligrams more gear. That's negligible. It's not going to make any difference. And his weight went up 10.5 pounds. So Mike dieted for 3 weeks, pretty hard. 1 week, I guess he was at maintenance. And his weight went up 10 pounds while getting leaner. Even if the DEXA scam were the same scam and still had him at 14.4%, how many of you think he put 10.5 pounds of muscle in 3 weeks while dieting? That doesn't make sense at all. And so I would, A, be suspicious that the scale that was used on the DEXA scan was inaccurate. Now, when I went and did my DEXA scan with you, and I weighed in on the DEXA scan itself, they had a scale and the DEXA scan weight. They were up.
I cannot sing in the original key. Like,
that's fine.
In a set of songs.
Oh, that's right, friends. Even the great Chapel Roan singing her own song does not always sing it in the same key. Frequently does it and sing it in the same key. Doing it in the studio is going to be totally different than doing it live if you're singing one song, or doing it live if you're in the middle of a long set, or if you're in the middle of a long week of multiple shows. Always put it in the key, whatever song you are singing, when you are able, that feels best and sounds best for your voice on that day for that occasion with whatever else you have going on. Good luck.
I cannot sing in the original key. Like,
I've been getting some weird and negative comments lately, and now I can finally talk about them. You've probably noticed a little less music content on my channels, and I've been enjoying it, except for when I tried beef jerky for the first time.
Oh my god!
That's poop from a butt. People have been saying, stick to the harp, and you've run out of musical ideas, and now I can finally address this. I've been making less music content because all of my musical energy has gone into making this. An effects pedal that I designed after spending years researching and trying thousands of pedals. It's finally done, and there's no other pedal like it. Parting has made my favorite sounds that I've ever made on harp, but it was also designed for guitar, synths, and even voice. You can get one of these if you want, and I hope you love it as much as I do.
I'm flirting with a boy that I think wants to murder me. I could go touch his hair and wrap my fingers on my keys. I got over him in a few days, but I'm missing the thrill. I put him in a case and take him like a happy pill. If Santa Claus went down your chimney with a machete and told you to go get your will and casket ready, would you go home at night thinking, what a day? Would you finally be entertained? The clouds are raining cacao and cocaine. Any piece on a plate, I send it back, I prefer pain. Would you applaud? I'm flirting with a boy that I think wants to murder me. I could go touch his hair and wrap my fingers on my keys. I got over him in a few days, but I'm missing the thrill. I put him in a case and take him like a happy pill. If Santa Claus went down your chimney with a machete.
You press tab and you see what's happening on the rest of the map. Not only that, but the chat is going bananas. Everyone just keeps typing and typing. How does everyone have so much to say? You know you're in for a terrible time in games like these. Well, unless it's your job. You gotta take the positives where you can get them. Top lane mains dread games like these, and for good reason. You were isolated from the map, and you couldn't have prevented any of it even if you tried. So what do you do now? In this video, I'm gonna be teaching you the simple game plans you need to follow to give yourself the best shot at coming back in games like these to easily carry. And I know that this problem specifically feels worse as a tank player. So I'm not gonna show you a single moment from me using my challenger hands on something like Camille or Jax to 1v9. Trust me, even extremely team-reliant champions like tanks can carry games like these easily. So I'll only be showing you tank clips and nothing more. You will soon see that these are simple lessons that any champion can follow. Alright, as any top player main knows, these kind of games are extremely common. You're going to get 3 or 4 teammates that aren't performing in around 20 to 30% of your games. Knowing what to do in these circumstances can increase your win rate significantly. The number one mistake so many players make in games like these is really simple. Most of you try to use your lead to bail your team out. And again, tank players are especially guilty of this. Loyal players tend to have a really bad mindset where they overthink the game. Oh, the enemy ADC has no flash and dragons coming up, and they have a big shutdown, so if I sync up my roam timer with the dragon spawning, I can kill them, and then we get the objective, and maybe... Stop. None of those thoughts should ever cross your mind. Let me visualize this for you. If you have a lead, you have a lot of pressure on one lane of the map by pushing waves. And if your teammates are losing, then the other two are pressured by the enemy. Let's say that in the mid game, you start grouping more often to try to help out the rest of your team with your lead. The enemy top that's losing is just going to AFK in lane and push while you leave. So what you've done is you've lost that pressure point and conceded it to the enemy. Now you have to hope that with your numbers advantage, you can take pressure elsewhere, except that is really hard to do with a losing team. If you don't get lucky and manage it, all 3 lanes will be pressured by the enemy and the map will fall into complete chaos and you're not going to be able to come back. Please don't do that. Instead, play off the pressure you have in that one lane where you have a lot of influence. The strategy you go for will largely depend on the game and what your champion can specifically do well. For example, champions with good mobility can look to play the Singe strategy where you pressure and bait people into wasting time to try and kill you. Proper side lane play is really important for coming back in games like these, and I can't cover every single strategy in this video. So if you really want all the details for how to properly use your lead in a side lane, then you need to check out our Top Lane Essentials course over at SkillCap. There, we cover everything required for a top laner in terms of macro, so you can apply what you're about to learn even better. And that's on top of covering the laning phase extensively so you can build a lead to carry in the first place. SkillCapped is so confident in how we teach the game that we also offer a 5-division rank up guarantee while actively using our service, or you get your money back. If you genuinely want to improve and be a better player, then use the discount link below to sign up after this video. Moving on, proper side pressure is the key for coming back in games like these. That being said though, when most of your teammates are losing, the best tactic you can usually go for is crashing waves and then collapsing to rejoin your teammates somewhere in mid or in the jungle. When you're there, you can decide whether to force the play or not based on the situation that you see. Obviously, the more fed you are, the more you can get away with, and the weaker you are, the more restraint you'll have to show. The reason that we're splitting into collapsing towards mid and not using other split pushing tactics is because your weak team usually won't give you much of a choice. 2 very common goals for side laning tend to be crashing into stealing enemy jungle camps, or crashing into pressuring the enemy tower and the player defending it. Unfortunately, these strategies are usually best when you have matching pressure in multiple lanes. For example, as you crash, if your teammates are sieging elsewhere, then you can pressure a tower. The problem is that when you're behind, your teammates don't have pressure, so you'd be pushing forward solo, which makes you easy to collapse to. I'm not saying you'll never see an opportunity like this, but splitting into collapsing mid will be your default game plan when your team is losing. Okay, there is a very, very important distinction here. I am not helping my team because I need to save them or stop the snowballing or win condition this and no. No. I am prioritizing myself in a side lane and using my free timing windows to potentially score some kills. As you can see during the rest of this play, the top lane wave was still pushed in. That is why I am here. I may technically be helping my teammates, but that is not my main intention. I am before all else helping myself. Alright, after killing a ton of people, I base and take a look at the wave states on the rest of the map. The top lane wave was still pushed in, and so is bot lane. You do want to look for opportunities like these to hover your teammates in mid. Again, this is simply free time for me while my wave is pushed in. Sometimes you may get something out of this, and sometimes you won't. All I managed to get in this particular game was a Pantheon ult. Not the greatest thing in the world, but hey, not terrible, right? But notice that I do not let someone put pressure in a side lane. The second that a wave is coming back to my side, I am already pathing up there. You need to use your lead to make sure that one lane is always pressured by you, and you will have the potential to carry. After pushing this wave out again, I go back to my game plan of collapsing mid. There's a couple of key details I want to talk about here. The reason this works so often in low elo is that when players get leads, they start getting cocky. Low elo players randomly look to push towers, or they end up mispositioning because they definitely don't keep track of you on the map. So because your team is losing, the enemy team is more likely going to be pushed up, so you can usually find opportunities for kills kinda easily. And 2, if you want to carry these games as a tank, you need to break a fundamental itemization rule. If you don't already know, the best advice for building when you're ahead in a game is actually to go defensive items. This is because you already deal enough damage, so you should protect your lead and be harder to shut down. On the flip side, when you're behind, you should build offensive. This seems odd at first, but the idea is simple. If you're 0-5, a Hex Drinker is not going to save you versus a Fed LeBlanc. When behind, you should build offensive items. So in the random chance that someone makes a mistake, you actually have the damage to punish and kill them. In my opinion, tanks are the only role that can break this rule in solo queue when they're ahead. Most tanks have an offensive item they can slot into their build quite easily, and because you're already ahead, you're not left wanting for defensive stats since you're a naturally VP champion. The only tank I can think of that doesn't have a good offensive item is Ornn, but even something that gives you just a small damage boost like Abyssal Mask is more than good enough. Make sure to consult your local Ornn main though, maybe there's some secret tech out there I don't know about. The reason I'm giving you this advice is because you need to deal enough damage on your own to punish enemy mistakes. As you all know, a single offensive item is more than enough for a tank to one-shot squishy champions or duel other bruisers, giving you way more opportunities to find kills and shutdowns. And as I was playing Poppy, Sundered Sky is a really common item on her, so I already had the offensive item I needed. After pushing in top lane, I'm collapsing towards mid. Like I said, I'm just doing the same thing over and over again. I get over there and try to make a play on Pantheon. It doesn't work, and now I have a choice to make. Do you remember our pressure visual from earlier, where if you help your team, you're conceding pressure elsewhere? As you can see, by coming mid, I've given Zed a chance to gain pressure in top. This is where you make a decision. You can either go back top to regain pressure there, or stay mid. In this specific game, I was absurdly strong. I'm on 3 items, and I am very over leveled. You should only stay mid if you are 100% guaranteed to have pressure, and that you know you're going to get something out of it. That's because getting the mid-tier 1 tower is more valuable than the fact that you're losing a side lane tower. But again, if I wasn't so absurdly strong right now, I would have simply gone back top lane and repeated the process of pushing and then rotating again. As the play keeps going, it's really important that you consistently reassess the situation when you're grouping. Notice that in the middle of this play, I'm looking towards top. I'm gonna be honest, I actually made a mistake here. I had assumed that Smolder would cover top lane while I was mid, but he actually TP'd over here as well. To be fair to him, that does make sense. If he went top, Zed would just kill him, so I don't really blame him for this. Alright, keep in mind that when you're grouping, you always keep asking yourself, when should my play end? When should my play end? That should just keep going through your head over and over. It is very important that you don't overstay mid, even for something like 5 seconds. So after scouting top lane, you can see my camera come back to me. I look at my screen, okay, Jin ult, the wave's in a straight line, so he can easily clear it. Smolder is here, but he's super weak. The play is done, got it. You can literally see my cursor getting ready to end the play and TP up the top. But then my challenger brain does kick in for a second. Wait a minute, Jin ult, Blast Cone, flash in 3 seconds, my W's up, and Yuumi has speed. So I do see this random angle and I stick around to take it. What can I say? The more you play the game, the more angles you're gonna see. Teleporting to defend that tower would have been more than fine, but I will take that kill any day of the week. And And that's literally it. League has such insane anti-snowball mechanics that if you make one or two good plays, your team is back in the game almost regardless of how behind you were. At this point, I was so disgustingly fed I couldn't throw the game even if I wanted to, and boy did I try to throw this game. That's the simple process to come back even in games where everyone on your team is trolling. You prioritize yourself, you don't play to bail people out, you keep playing on your wave timers and rotating to see what you can find. Sometimes you're not going to get anything when you rotate. That's okay. Sometimes the comeback is going to take a little longer, but you will eventually find an opportunity if you keep trying. Trust me, I have so many examples of playing a tank where my entire team is losing, but you just have to keep pushing side lanes and remember the damage item tip. If you're ahead, that damage item will help you secure kills in those key moments where you finally find an opportunity. And that's how to consistently carry even those seemingly impossible games. Stop panicking or overthinking your macro in tough games. It really is this simple. The biggest difference maker in your ability to carry these games is just how well you execute these basic game plans. You need to know how to fight well, when to stop grouping, when to go back to side, etc. Don't overthink your macro decisions. The actual truth to carrying in League is that most macro is really simple, but the execution is the hard part. You just need to practice getting better at these simple strategies that we teach you. Again, Skillcapped is the best place to learn these game plans and how to execute them properly. Use the discount link below to sign up. Anyway, see you next time.
In this guide, you're going to learn exactly why you suck at top lane and simple, easy to apply ways to fix it. My name's Hex. I'm a multi-season challenger player that's been teaching League of Legends here at Skillcapped for over 10 years. I even created one of our most popular courses where I taught how to get Diamond as a top laner in just 30 days. It documented my entire climb with over 14 hours of content. And if there is one thing I've learned about climbing as a top laner, it's that everything starts with winning your lane. Here's the good news. Winning your lane is way easier than you think it is, and by the end of this guide, you're going to learn everything you'll ever need to do just that. So, here's the first big myth about top lane, that it's all about trading. This couldn't be further from the truth. It's actually the exact opposite. And the first video in our brand new top lane essentials course explains why better than I ever could.
Not a single high elo player will ever argue over two things. First is that top lane is without a doubt the most unforgiving role in the game. If you make a single mistake in this role, it feels like you're unable to play for the rest of the match. The champions in top are incredibly scary, and you're likely playing a melee versus melee matchup. So if you fall behind, it is impossible to walk up without just instantly dying. Which brings us to the second thing every high elo player knows. That wave control knowledge is by far the most important for top laners out of every role, and that it is probably the most critical skill you can learn to get better at it. Like we said, you're likely in a melee matchup where you don't have access to range wave clear to try and farm safely. Other roles can often push waves from really far away to avoid danger. But in top, you have to get up close and personal to farm. So if your wave is in a bad spot, it is unlikely you get out of it unscathed. Not only that, but a matchup can completely swing based on where the wave is crashed. As you can see, this Darius is struggling to trade versus the enemy Aatrox while the wave is here. The lane feels unwinnable at the moment, so you'd think that both players are relatively equal in skill. But when the wave is in the middle of the lane, the Darius instantly looks like a better player. He's just running the Aatrox down, and the matchup looks completely different. The point we're making is that you cannot play top lane properly unless you care about wave control.
And by the way, you can unlock this full course through the discount link below. It's completely risk-free, since if you don't rank up while actively using Skillcapped, you get your money back, no questions asked. Alright, so you now know the real most important skill in top lane is wave control. Does this mean you have to learn a ton of different wave control tactics and nuanced positions to dominate? Well, no, not at all. Check this out. Here's a high platinum Renekton. Notice how Renekton arrives in lane level 1 and is literally doing nothing. It's almost like he's waiting for Darius to arrive so he can start trading with him. Then, once Darius comes out of the brush, Renekton gets that trade, but just gets destroyed, which eventually lets Darius hit level 2 first and zone it. From Renekton's perspective, he probably thinks Darius is just overpowered. I mean, he literally just ran at Renekton to out-trade him. Well, here is what every top laner gets wrong. When you arrive in lane at level 1, your primary goal is not to trade with the opponent. That's secondary. Your primary goal is to simply auto-attack the minions to get the push lead. And here's why. Notice here how Renekton is going to land a ton more auto-attacks on the minions compared to Wukong. Then, when Renekton's ability is off cooldown, he can look to land it, but the goal is to get what's called a double value spell. You're looking to damage the opponent and the minions at the same time. Now, the ability is on cooldown, so we're back to spamming auto attacks on the wave to secure the push lead. Then, once the ability comes back up, we can look for another double value spell. You repeat this pattern on the first wave, auto minions, and look for a double value spell when your ability is up, as once the second wave arrives, the first melee minion will spike you level 2. This sets up level 2 all-ins on the opponent, which can outright win you your lane in the first 3 minutes of the game. Basically, the matchup won't matter if you get the push lead, since the level 2 spike is so powerful, and the majority of top laners simply aren't aware of this concept, as we saw in the Platinum replay, where neither Darius or Renekton knew they needed to auto minions and both just sat AFK at the start of the lane. So, step 1 in top lane is literally just making sure you get the push lead on the first wave by making sure you're autoing the minions whenever you can. Great, this sounds simple enough. You'll probably head into your next game, put this into action, get that push lead early, land some double value spells, hit level 2, and then the opponent sits a mile back, not falling for the level 2 all-in. Guess what? This is still winning. When the opponent doesn't fall for your level 2 all-in, you then transition into what's called a cheater recall. Step 11 in our wave control course on our website perfectly summarizes how to do a cheater recall, so let's watch it.
A cheater recall is a really famous early wave strategy and one of the deadliest tactics you can pull off for a big lead if it's done properly. Here's how it works. On the first wave, get the minion advantage by damaging the wave more than the enemy. As the second wave arrives, look to maintain your minion advantage as much as possible. Don't make the mistake of over-pushing though, as you don't want to crash just now. That's because you want to crash precisely on the third wave. So once it arrives, push as quickly as possible to crash into the tower. Now you can take a free recall while your opponent is distracted away. Now you'll have an item advantage with full health and mana on top of that, so walk back to lane. The wave will have rebounded back to you, so you can now freeze and force trades with your item advantage and play the lane normally from here. You can use a cheater recall in all 3 lanes to get a guaranteed advantage right at the start of the game.
Great, so what you're going to see is Renekton follows that advice, gets the level 2 spike, transitions to only last hitting, do not over push the wave. Third wave arrives, so we hard push it to set up your recall timing, and then you head back to lane with an item advantage while the wave pushes back to you, letting you set up a freeze. You'll see how this one tactic wins Renekton his lane. So, now Zed is being zoned from minions as he can only last hit with his Q due to Renekton's item lead. At the same time, whenever Zed gets too close, Renekton can go in for a trade. This pattern of denying minions and engaging for winning trades continues, until eventually the enemy jungler tries to gank to relieve pressure, but it's a waste of time since Zed is so low. And speaking of which, once an enemy gets low enough, you just push to set up a tower dive. We'll talk more on this later. For now though, Zed has been zoned a ton of CS, ended up dying and losing the wave to the tower, all from this one cheater recall tactic. So this is your very simple game plan: get the push level 1, and either get a level 2 all in to win your lane, or you transition into a cheater recall if you don't get the enemy low enough in health, at which point you come back to lane and start forcing winning trades. So, this will work against the majority of players you face, but what about when you don't get the push lead at level 1? Whether it's due to the enemy knowing to fight for it, or the matchup just sucks for you, or you had to give a leash, like in this game. Well, here's what you do. Your goal is to take minimal damage level 1. You don't try to fight against the push, you're actually hoping the enemy over pushes and crashes a wave level 2 so they can't cheat or recall. This does mean at some point you're going to be giving up CS, especially once the enemy is going to spike level 2 on you. Once the wave crashes into your tower, you're just focusing on last hitting until you're level 3. As once you're level 3, you're equal in levels with the opponent and can begin to start looking for potential trades. This is because when an enemy crashes a big wave into your tower like this, it creates what's known as a bounce back or a rebound. The third step in our brand new top lane essentials course explains this concept way better than I can.
When you crash a wave at tower, it will often stall like so. This causes the wave to eventually slow push back the other way. The major reason it's so important to understand bounce backs is because slow pushes have far more trading value in lanes where both champions are melee. But another key factor that bounce backs provide is safety. Top lane is also the most vulnerable role to multiple factors. For starters, it's the counterpick role. If you're in a bad matchup, you will absolutely feel it way more than any other lane. You all know how awful it feels to be counterpicked here. Not only that, but it's a very snowballing role. If you fall behind, the game is unplayable. So you need to be able to avoid ganks, dives, and all-ins as much as you possibly can. Bounce backs are not only your best friend for getting leads, but also to keep you safe from bad matchups and ganks. Let's break down all the aggressive and defensive plays you need to know how to play around bounce backs properly. Let's start at the beginning. After your opponent crashes a wave, it will eventually bounce in a slow push in your favor. Your goal is to build up as big of a wave as possible, slowly pushing it to your opponent's side. During this time, you can be very aggressive looking for trades, especially early on into the game. Like we said before, more minions gives you an easier time to harass. That's the simple part. The push is both the most aggressive part of the bounce back, but also the most vulnerable. The problem is that although you have a slow push going, you are pushing towards your opponent's side. This means that you can get ganked, or if you take a bad trade, the wave can be frozen against you, and so on. So if you're in a bad spot, you're low on HP, or you're in a bad matchup, Then, when you've got a bounce back slow push going, only focus on crashing the wave. Don't focus on trading or anything like that. If you play on your bigger wave during the early level, your opponent probably doesn't have the wave clear to fight you with so many minions around. As long as you crash the wave, you will be able to neutralize the lane. This is because of what happens after you crash the wave. Your opponent is now stuck in lane, unable to move. Not only that, but you now know for certain that the wave will bounce back to your side of the lane eventually. You can use this information to plan around building a lead or stabilizing a bad lane. So for example, Sion knew that this was a bad lane state, so he focused entirely on crashing the wave. One of the best things you can do on any crash is simply to base and heal up while buying items. This is how you can neutralize a lot of bad lane matchups. The reason this is so effective is because you won't lose almost any farm while you're gone. Because the wave is pushing back into you, you're going to come back to wave either close to or at your tower. You can farm. Then, if your opponent's based, you'll be alone like Sion here, and you can crash again. And if you crash again, you can play safe and even repeat the process. Or, as a hypothetical, if the Garen had stayed, Sion would have had a massive item lead. Either option was good for him in this rough early lane.
Okay, so that was a lot of info, and we're not even halfway through the video, so let's stop it there. Basically, when this wave crashes, the first step is hitting level 3 to equalize with the opponent. You'll then have that bounce back, so if you're stronger at this point, you can look for aggressive trades, as the enemy is so overextended that you have a ton of room to run them down in a trade. If instead you felt weaker due to the matchup, you simply focus on maintaining a minion lead and building up a big wave off your bounce back instead. Regardless, both scenarios will usually result in you being in this exact spot. You'll hit level 4 before the opponent due to your minion advantage and have a big wave built up. It's worth noting, a lot of the times the enemy will actually just die to you overextending during this time. We'll cover this later. However, if instead you get an enemy really low but didn't kill them, like you saw in the Zed clip, then this is a great time to tower dive, like we taught you earlier. If instead the enemy is too healthy, well, you just push this wave into setting up a recall. That probably sounds familiar, and yeah, it's pretty much the same game plan as the cheater recall, which is why I like to call this a delayed cheater recall. So, we now have the item advantage, and the enemy is pushing back into us. And so, whenever they overextend, we can look to trade with our item advantage, and you can see how this once again sets up a solo kill for us. So let's quickly recap our game plan early on. Level 1, we look to get the push lead. If we do, we either get a level 2 all-in on the opponent, or they play safe, and so we cheat or recall. Get back to lane with the wave pushing into us with an item advantage, and look to trade on the opponent and zone them from CS. If an enemy gets low enough, we always break the freeze to push and set up a tower dive. If we don't get the push lead level 1, we look to play safe and take as little damage as possible, even if that means giving up CS. Once the wave crashes, we'll hit level 3. That's our signal that we can start to look to play aggressive. Into good matchups, that means looking to trade while the enemy is overextended up the lane, and into bad matchups, that means focusing on maintaining your minion lead as you build up a big wave. If the enemy doesn't get themselves killed during this time, you'll end up in this spot, level 4, while the enemy is level 3 with a big wave built up. If an enemy is low enough in health, we of course always tower dive, but if they're healthy enough to survive, we turn it into a delayed cheater recall. Head back to lane with an item advantage and look to trade aggressively as the enemy overextends with the wave pushing into us, often setting up solo kills for us. Great, so you now know how to play the early part of the laning phase, but what about the rest of it? Well, lucky for you, there's really only one concept you need to understand, and it's that top lane is effectively just taking turns slow pushing into each other. For example, here, Wukong is building up a slow push off a rebound. With such a big minion advantage, it can be quite hard to win any trades into him unless you have some sort of big advantage. So often, you'll just sit back, let the wave crash into your tower, and then you start setting up your own slow push back into the enemy off that rebound. When the wave crashes, the enemy will often use it as a recall timing to get an item advantage. This is incredibly important, we'll explain why shortly. Your response to this is to slow push so you build up a big wave to counteract that item advantage. Then, once the wave is big enough and far enough up the lane, you crash it to set up your own recall timing to get your own item advantage. The enemy will respond by, once again, building up a slow push off the rebound, crashing that wave to set up their own recall timing. You then respond by building up another slow push off the rebound and crashing a wave to set up your recall timing. Well, hold on, you might be thinking, didn't you just teach me that after you cheat a recall, you get an item advantage, and when it bounces back, you can go aggressive? So why is it that you're letting Wukong push the wave into your tower and not going aggressive off the rebound? Well, let's look at the previous examples to learn why. Yorick made two mistakes. He overpushed and crashed on the second wave, so he didn't have enough gold to cheat a recall, and since he didn't recall, it meant he had no item advantage when the wave rebounded. At the same time, he overextended instead of playing safe off of the rebound, resulting in a trade during Renekton's slow push, or Renekton's turn. This put him low in health, so once Renekton crashed the wave and recalled, he came back with a huge item lead and a health lead. This is why Renekton could go aggressive and kill him despite Yorick having a rebound. Zed, on the other hand, made one simple mistake. Renekton crashes the wave and recalls to get the item lead. Notice how once Renekton gets back in lane, Zed is level 4, while Renekton is level 3. Zed also has a big minion lead. What Zed needs to do is use this small timing window to push the wave to try and crash it and set up his own recall timing. Instead, Zed plays way too scared, and so Renekton is able to set up a freeze and start thinning out minions. This results in Zed missing his timing window and now being in a horrible position. Compare that to Wukong in the exact same position. He's going to fight in this spot to make sure the wave crashes so he can get out of this and actually recall. Basically, if everyone is playing perfectly, the laning phase can result in just taking turns slow pushing, crashing the wave, and recalling into each other on repeat. However, the vast majority of your opponents will not be playing perfectly. The most common mistake is they'll trade into your slow push timing, basically when it's not their turn, setting up a checkmate position for you. If they recall, you push the wave and they lose all the minions to the tower. If they stay, you tower dive them like we taught you, getting a kill, and denying all the minions to the tower anyway. The second most common mistake they'll make is they won't recall after they crash their big wave. This means they didn't get to recall to spend their gold on items. So, once you finish your slow push into a crash into recalling, you're back with an even bigger item lead, letting you break the rules, fighting back on their turn to slow push. And the third most common mistake they'll make is they don't use their slow push to then crash the wave. If they get too scared, you can end up thinning out the wave and setting up a freeze with your item advantage. And suddenly, with you having an item advantage and the wave in front of your tower, they can no longer crash the wave to set up a recall to buy items of their own. Great, so you're now pretty much ahead of 99% of the top laners you'll face and have a game plan for the entire laning phase. Well, almost. The last thing you need to understand is that everything we just taught you will no longer apply from around levels 7 to 9. This is for several reasons. First, once a champion is level 7, they'll have 4 points in an ability, which is usually their best wave clear ability. At level 9, they'll have 5 points in it, so these are the levels where champions unlock very strong wave clear. Second, as the game gets later, freezing is simply no longer as strong. This is because the whole idea of freezing is that you're denying minions from the opponent as their minions kill yours, forcing them to move up to last hit or give up the CS. The problem is, later on, giving up CS like this isn't as punishing. Minions don't scale. They give the same amount of XP at level 1 or level 18. At the same time, it requires more experience to level up the higher in level you are. What this means is that level 1, giving up 2 waves could be the difference between being level 1 or level 3. At level 7 though, giving up 2 waves could have no impact on your level at all. Players also have access to more items, their ultimates, and boot upgrades, letting them roam faster while also hitting roams harder. So, while you're freezing and they're losing a wave or two, they're getting kills and objectives elsewhere. Long story short, hard pushing will pin the opponent down, preventing that scenario. And third, by pushing, it gives you a roam timing, which is often the best way to snowball your lead in top. This is because the majority of the roster in top lane are melee champions, so often when you get a lead, the enemy top laner will just hurdle at their tower. If you try to damage the tower, they just get to trade on you from safety from under their tower, and they're usually bruisers or tanky champions, so it's not like you can just tower dive them from 100 to 0. An important trick when doing this though, when you implement this push into roam, you need to place a control ward in the river brush. This is because even if you end up not getting anything done on the roam, it often sets you up to get a winning trade if the enemy face checks the brush, or they just assume you recalled or are roaming, and so will move up the lane to push. So when you get back to lane, it lets you get behind them without them knowing, enforcing a winning trade with your lead, which again can get them low enough to set up a tower dive on them on the next wave. And if they just play passive avoiding this, well that means you'll get to any fights in the river first, combine that with your lead, and it's an easy snowball from the winning fights. And of course, you can always look for a mid lane gank off your push into roam if you see a good opportunity to do so. And now you have a simple but effective game plan to win and snowball your lane. Next is what to do once the laning phase ends. And to prove just how good our new Top Lane Essentials course is on our website, let's give you a sneak peek into the macro section.
If you've watched any macro content before, you'll know that macro basically boils down to pushing and playing around the pressure of it. To put it simply, if no one pushed in any side of the waves, everyone would just group in mid and 5v5 team fight all the time. If that was the case, the only skill needed to climb would be learning how to team fight, which is obviously not the case. As a top laner, you are likely the most self-sufficient champion on your team. You're probably a durable tank, a great duelist, or a mobile carry. You're also likely running the summoner spell Tele. This means that you are usually the most suited player on your team to push inside of the waves, and by pushing those waves, you give you or your teammates the time to clear on the pressure. Which brings us to the most important macro concept to learn winning inside of this. You have to remember that both top laners are usually going to be the ones side laning in the game, typically against one another. Whoever is stronger is going to be able to push waves into the other player's tower. So one player will have a lot of pressure, while the other will have very little impact on the map. This is why winning early is so important as a top laner. You will have infinitely less options than your opponent if they're stronger than you. Here's what you can expect if you're losing. The enemy top will likely push waves onto your side of the map. Your job will be to catch the waves they push, and to prevent them from just pushing your towers. Because they're stronger, they will be able to move first on the map. So if they push a wave and then rotate towards your team, you will always be late. That's why you need to try to save teleport to react to their plays, so you can join the fight as well. We're not saying that's all you can do when you're losing, but that's what you should expect your job to be from behind. You may be thinking, what if I don't have teleport? Well, that sucks. That's like asking, what if my opponents have Baron, Elder Dragon, and are 20,000 gold ahead? We're exaggerating, but sometimes there's nothing you can do when you're behind, especially as a top laner. You just have to pray your opponents make a mistake and throw. Just do the best you can, which is why you want to have ideally won the laning phase, or at the very least be capable of pushing. After you push a side lane, there's two options. You can either group with your team or remain in the side lane. We'll discuss split pushing in a later video, but let's talk about what grouping with your team should look like here. Pushing a wave to your opponent's tower forces a response. If the enemy does literally nothing, then they are losing farm and taking tower damage. They must do something as a response or they fall behind. Let's take a look at an example. Jace and his team are all calling that they'll be contesting Dragon in 50 seconds time. Jace even pings that he's on his way while pathing to the complete opposite side of the map. This will be one of your bread and butter macro plays. You want to push side lane waves before the objective has spawned. It's important you do it 20 or 30 seconds in advance at the very least. Now that Jace has crashed this wave, the enemy team is feeling the pressure. They either have to force a dragon fight immediately, or they respond to Jace's push and send someone to defend. In this case, the enemy top laner chooses to defend and teleports up here. The second that he does, Jace counter teleports to join the dragon fight and helps turn it around. And just like that, he helps secure his team a dragon despite them playing from behind. This will be your basic macro rhythm in most games. Push a wave, force someone to respond, and join up with your team. Let's be clear, this won't always yield a positive result. But the point is that you keep trying it over and over again. So for example, Sejuani pushes the wave and forces the enemy Gwen to respond. Then she recalls and pass mid to join up with her team, achieving nothing at all. That's fine. By pushing wave so aggressively, you don't lose any farm while you're trying to defend. You just have to go back to the side lane before your opponent pushes the wave to your tower. This is a low risk, high reward strategy. You get nothing, all you have to do is go back to the side lane.
By the way, we're only halfway through that video, and we also cover how to use teleport and how to split push. So if you want to learn how to climb ranks fast as top lane, then this is the course you've been looking for, as it covers the A through Z of everything you'll ever need to know to rank up as a top laner. It's completely risk-free to try, since if you don't rank up while actively using skill cap, you get your money back, no questions asked. You can get all of this through the discount you can only unlock through the link below. So what are you waiting for? Click the link in the description below to get the rank you've always wanted this season. Alright, and that will do it for this one. We here at SkillCap want to thank you for watching, and we'll catch you in the next one.
Hey guys, I'm Hector. If you know me, you'll know I've been Challenger in every single role before, and for the past 4 or 5 years I've studied low elo at skill cap to help players improve. There's probably not a single Challenger player in the world that has played as much low elo as I have, and in this video I'm going to cover 5 very common mistakes I see almost every single game. These are mistakes that are either making you lose, or they're opportunities you're not punishing nearly enough. So there's one mistake for every role. I will say that there's a lot of overlap between them. You can just watch whatever you want. Before continuing, I know I've been gone from the channel for a while, and that's because I was behind the scenes working on some huge courses over at SkillCap to help our members climb fast. We've worked on some really good courses covering the fundamentals that truly help you climb, like trading, wave control, macro, and much more. These are all designed to genuinely get you to at least a master's level on these topics in a really short amount of time, regardless if you just started playing or have played for years. I really do recommend checking out these courses, partly because I was worked to death on them, but also because they will actually help you. And if they don't, there's a rank up guarantee anyways. If you don't climb, you don't have to pay. Be sure to check out those courses on our website after this. Anyway, the first mistake I'm going to be covering will be for bot lane, because there's 2 people down here, which means this mistake is twice as likely to happen, and believe me, I see it happen way too often. I'm about to go into this laning phase, and I want you to pay attention. All 3 players in this lane are going to instantly troll themselves, and sadly, they're not aware of it. At a first glance, everyone is fighting for level 2. I'm happy that people are improving, they're aware that level 2 is important, so they're contesting for it, but all 3 players are doing it wrong because they don't understand about over pushing. League is kind of a game of turns. You get a turn to be aggro, then I get a turn to be aggro, and we kind of go back and forth until someone gets a lead. Unfortunately, players tend to not make very good use of their turns. The mistake is hitting the wave way too much to hit level 2. Getting a level lead is pointless if your wave is in a bad spot. By the time they get level 2, look at how many more minions they have than we do. This wave is pushing so quickly into us that I can shell all the way back here, and this makes it so that the free turn they had at the beginning of the lane is now over. Okay, so how was Nautilus trolling then? Well, you see, early on I realized that they're over-pushing, so I stopped auto-attacking completely. But my Nautilus tried to be a bit of a bro. He's like, guys, no, you're trolling, let me help you. Every time he auto-attacks the wave, he's canceling out one of the enemy duo's auto-attacks. He's basically trying to fix their over-pushing. This is a concept called matching autos. I will let one of the previous versions of myself explain it. You don't want to over-push, but you do want to push. Right? You want a small push lead, something like this. And if your opponents hit the wave, then you answer back. And if they don't hit the wave, you don't hit the wave. So you see how Kog'Maw's hitting the wave? I'll hit it a little bit, but when he stops auto-attacking, you see how I'm not auto-attacking? In this way, you don't over-push the wave, and it kind of stays in the middle, a little bit like this, and we're able to more easily harass our opponents. Did you manage to catch that during that whole thing, my Vayne was also over-pushing? Like I said, this happens almost every single game. You want slow pushes. You want like 1, maybe 2 more minions than your opponent. That makes the wave stay in the middle longer, and it gives you more time to harass them. This is the thing about bot lane. Sometimes your partner is going to play the wave wrong, but you don't want to make that same mistake with them. At the very least, don't end up making things worse, you know? Back to the Ezreal game, my opponents missed their turn, so the wave crashed, and it's now bouncing. After a bounce back, it's typically going to be your turn, and we make very good use of it. I'm only hitting the wave as much as I need to give my Nautilus plenty of time to find engages to kill our opponents. This laning phase was unfortunately decided in about 10 seconds from when it started, and it's all from such a simple mistake to fix. A quick side note, by the way, that little Zyra moment was one of 5 educational commentaries I upload to our site for every role on a weekly basis. What's nice about them is that we are, compelled to answer any question you throw at us. So you can ask me or any of our other challenger commentators anything about the game in question, or literally anything else. You want tips on a random matchup, you want runes, items, whatever, or you want to know the weather in London, I got you. Anyway, moving on back to the video, I already know I'm going to get comments about this next mistake. I can feel them coming already. Let's move on to jungle. This is a role I feel pretty sad for because I feel like jungle players care a lot about strategy and decision making in this game. You know, it's the role about pathing, what lanes you play for, win condition, and whatnot, but the problem is that you start to overthink things. A common issue, and this happens to me as well by the way from time to time, is that when you care so much about one thing, you end up tunnel visioning on it to the point of being blinded by it, and then all of the care and knowledge you have about that topic kind of loops back to making you bad at playing around it. And for junglers, that is definitely objectives. I am not kidding when I say 80% of games I play in low elo are not won because I'm good, but because the enemy jungler will make the most ridiculous call for an objective. Why is this Shaco starting dragon here? Or this Rammus, I have priority in top lane, and he's like, nope, I don't care, I'm fighting to the death for these grubs. I swear it's a bit outrageous what I'll see. I will literally get a quadra kill. The game is over, and my jungler will begin flaming me afterwards. And then he will genuinely AFK out of tilt because I didn't rotate the dragon a single time. I really hate parroted advice like don't play for kills, objectives are what wins games, or you need to accelerate your lead and destroy towers to open up the map, bro. They're words that put together sound kinda smart, but in reality, they're not very helpful, and they can actually end up hurting how players view the game. So I'm going to give you my perspective on objectives. I feel like this approach makes it far less likely you throw a game over them, but at the same time, it's going to help you secure them more often as well. Objectives are simultaneously extremely important to winning, but also completely irrelevant at the same time. In my opinion, the best way of viewing them in solo queue is more as a means to an end. They don't actually help you win the game, they just help you close it out. You don't just randomly get Dragon Soul and be like, oh nice, we can start winning now. No, you get Dragon Soul because you were winning most of the game and you got to take every single dragon. When you secure Void Grubs, every tower on the map doesn't just suddenly explode, it just so happens that the winning team will usually get Void Grubs and push towers. It's simple, most of the time, the winning team will secure objectives and the losing team will have to give them up. So it is okay to take your time and farm more jungle camps to help yourself. It is okay to play for kills and not care about dragon or herald or any tower. The easiest way to secure an objective is simply by being strong. I'm on vision right now, but I don't care in the slightest. My lanes are winning, I'm winning, so we'll naturally get these grubs. I don't have to try to get them. There's just nothing the enemy jungler can even do about it. I want you to avoid situations like this, okay? So here is Zed, I gank, and we fight in bot lane. We kill 2 of them, including the enemy enemy jungler, and the support is now low too. Many players will immediately think, okay, we've got 4 people here, let's convert these kills into dragon, but my teammates are low, my TF needs to go back to mid, the enemy Orianna just pushed and went missing, and my bot lane needs to push out. You hear all of these variables and this and that, you could maybe get the dragon, but it's so forced and complicated that I say, no thanks, I just go farm my Krugs. We end up losing this dragon later. It's fine, it doesn't matter. Or, if you remember this example, we wiped Shaco's team after his crazy dragon call, but after the fact I'm playing Nautilus jungle, which is beyond useless, I do no damage, and my Samira is low on mana, and she needs to push her wave. Typically, you would finish this dragon here, but I just abort the call. I go back to farming. It's fine. I want you to do objectives when it's not a big hassle, when you don't have to think about it. It's convenient. Your teammates are in the area. You're not going to be overly contested. Or just focus on getting ahead in gold, items, kills. If you're stronger than your opponents, you will get most objectives by just killing everyone. I promise you that the less you care about them, the more often you will actually secure leads and objectives for your team. And now we're going to transition sentence to mid lane. It goes without saying that mid laners generally have the best wave clear in the game. This is because their main ability that they max tends to be an area of effect spell. So what ends up happening in trades is that when you cast spells, very often your abilities are hitting enemy minions and your opponent's abilities are hitting your minions as you trade. And I find that low elo players are often caught off guard by this because they don't think ahead for how abilities might change the landscape of the lane. Let's look at some examples. Right now, this Ahri clearly feels very safe playing around these minions. If I go in, I have to tank them, and she can maybe dodge my E by looping around them. Sure, that makes sense, but as they start to get lower on HP, these minions will die to very little AoE. So I try to land my Q on Ahri, I miss, they're now low. So I E forward and they die in the middle of the trade, making it very easy to punish her positioning here, and I come out ahead. This exact play works way too often, especially around level timers. Right now, these minions are getting low. Syndra is probably mentally prepared to punish my last hit. If I walk up in auto, she'll combo me, or if I use Q, she'll have a cooldown advantage. However, as you can probably guess, I'm just going to use my E through the minions, hitting them at the same time. I level up and I get to chunk her off of this. This exact play catches people off guard way too often. I genuinely can't emphasize how undervalued killing minions in the middle of a trade is. Even from guides or coaching, I barely hear it discussed. Sometimes you should simply press your ultimate just to get a minion advantage during a trade. Don't underestimate how OP minions are. They do damage, they block skill shots, they give you more options, and they take away enemy options. Even at higher levels, they can do a lot. I'm telling you, this is a skill you really want to be more aware of because it's relevant almost every single game, and it catches people off guard, even at higher brackets. Like, some of these are Masters Elo examples, by the way. I'm not just doing this to gold and platinum players. Versus the Zed, I Q the wave because I wanted to push. Now Zed has a big brain moment. Oh, Ahri's Q is down, so I have a cooldown advantage. Now I can fish for poke, and whoa, sorry buddy, I've ulted forward and your wave is dead. What are you gonna do? Well played to him, he managed to live, but enjoy going back to base. Even defensively, it ruins people's days. Here I'm trading versus Akali. Okay, then the most DS shuriken ever hits me. Fair enough, it's easy to panic here. If you run away, Akali has a lot of DPS and can potentially chase down and kill me. So what do? I focus the wave and level up. Now she has to run away from me. She's out of cooldowns and the lane is not looking too good for her. I don't know what else to say. Killing minions during trades is such an underrated skill. People fall for it all the time, and I just recommend being more aware of it and actually practicing it. It's either going to save or win you a lot of laning phases. By the way, we just released our brand new mid lane essentials course at Skillcap that covers the A through Z of everything you need to learn to climb as a mid laner. This covers everything from trading to macro, team fighting, and anything else you could possibly need from a mid laner's perspective. It's nearly an hour's worth of content we've spent a very long time on, so make sure to check it out. Moving on to support, let me say this. I have spent years studying, coaching, playing low elo games now, and I don't think I have ever seen a support do what I'm about to talk about, which is a shame because it is one of the simplest and most effective methods to hard carry a game. After getting this double kill, Leona helps her Lucian push the wave into the tower, then they recall together. This is the mistake. It is such a big opportunity missed here. Let me break it down. In similar situations, you actually want to base before your ADC. In a way, you're kind of like sucking their tempo from them because instead of helping them push, get plates or whatever, you get to leave the lane faster while they might have to stay in lane a bit longer. Here's why this can be so good to do. A support fundamental is to try to roam mid every time you come out of the base. You go mid, gank, pressure, put a ward down, or whatever, and you go back to bottom. The problem when you base at the same time as your ADC is that by the time you reach mid, they're already back in bottom all by themselves. This is what every support complains about. If you try to roam, your ADC often tends to die or make some silly mistake. But if you desync your recall, you go back to base faster. So while your ADC is pushing and resetting, you're already on your way to mid. Then when they start walking back to lane, you're also likely on your way back, and you meet up in bot lane at around the same time. This is really important to do because supports can hard carry games through roaming. You can potentially be there more often for those game-deciding grub fights, or you can gank, or even just put a bit of pressure in mid lane. You don't have to get a lot done. Point here is that you can do all of this while your ADC is not under any risk whatsoever. In this Leona's case, look at how slow her recall was. She can't even consider roaming to mid because she's already behind her Lucian. If she tried to roam now, she'd be leaving him alone for an entire minute. Instead, imagine if Leona was just here right now, which she could have easily done by desyncing her recall. If she was here, this is a free kill, then she goes back to bottom. It was a completely free opportunity missed because supports only ever recall at the same time as their ADC. That being said, I don't want you to tunnel vision on this and force it every single time. If your ADC needs help pushing, obviously help them push. You would do this when they're completely fine to push on their own and crash the wave. So in this case, Lucian had a ward in Tribrush, and both bot laners were dead. He didn't need help pushing, so this was a prime example of when you would desync your recall. Alright, let's wrap things up with top lane, the role that you need to watch 50 wave control videos to be good at, and this isn't going to be an exception, by the way. Probably one of, if not the most important skill to develop as a top laner is understanding that the positioning of a wave can completely change a matchup. A wave being here could make the lane unplayable, and then a wave being 5 yards down could completely change the dynamic of the 1v1. Positioning your waves consistently in a good spot for your champion is very important, and this shouldn't really be news to most top laners. The mistake I see the most often though is that to do that you need to 1. Crash the wave, and then 2. Wait for the bounce back. The mistake low elo top laners often make is being extremely lazy about making sure their wave crashes, which is silly because making sure your wave crashes might be the single most important moment to be constantly aware of. Let me show you how often this happens. Here, I'm playing Aurelia, and I completely grief myself. I somehow, instead of queuing both minions, I end up queuing one and then Riven. I don't get my passive stacked, and I'm just dead. Yeah, I suck. I have no TP. This lane should be 100% over. Riven comes back to lane and has 2 long swords over me. The lane is, again, over. All she has to do is crash this wave and then bounce it back into her, and I am screwed. Okay, she pushes the wave, and every time people forget about mirrored waves based on your own minions, she should know that I have an incoming one very soon. Why is she letting me hold the wave here? She had it. The lane was over. All she had to do was walk at me for literally 1 second. Now I can stabilize the lane. I eventually build up a slow push, and then I crash, and I've gone completely unpunished. Okay, another example. I'm playing Cho'Gath versus Darius. Honestly, I really suck. I can't land a Q to save my life, and I die again. Honestly, I into way too much in top lane. Anyway, you can see how bad I'm playing. This Darius can very easily kill me. I'm not playing very well. In this matchup, all Darius has to do is get the wave to the center of the lane. If it's in the center, he can run me around, and it's even harder for Cho'Gath to land Q because of all of the open space in the lane that he can play around. I cannot emphasize this enough. This matchup is horrible if the wave is in the center of the lane. Okay, he instantly pushes this wave. He didn't have to, but he wanted to go ward or whatever. Sure. Please stop me from holding the wave here. All he has to do is walk at me for like 2 seconds and force the wave to crash. Instead, I hold the wave in the perfect spot. It took a while because my wave was far away,